All right, so our first vocabulary word that we're going to do is adjacent angles. Okay, so if we just look at the word adjacent, that's like a word you guys might know. Okay, what does the word adjacent mean? Next to. Okay, so like this classroom is adjacent to that classroom. Okay, they're next to each other. They share a wall, right? When we have adjacent angles, they share two things. Okay, there's a common vertex and there's a common side. Okay, that's how we say that they share those things. We're going to draw a picture off to the side. Okay, on Tuesday, we talked about parts of angles. We talked about labeling angles, and naming our angles, right? All right, I'll give you guys a minute to get that copy down. So in this picture, our example is angle 3 and angle 4 are adjacent. Okay, angles 3 and angle 4 are adjacent. What would be considered the common vertex in this picture? B. And when I write B, B is a point, I have to use a capital B, right? And then what would be considered the common side? What is this side? Okay. We talked about angle sides, right? They can either be rays or they can be segments. This is the side. How do I name this thing that's going through the middle? BD, and what do I have to put on top of it? I'm not putting a line on top of it. What am I putting on top of it? I'm putting the ray on top of it, right? It has one arrowhead. Okay, it's ray BD. All right, we have to make sure we get our notation correct. All right, we're going to do 2 more words next, and we're going to put them in a table. So on the left side, I want you to write complementary angles. And on the right side, we're going to write supplementary angles. You guys have dealt with these words in middle school math before. I don't know if you remember what they mean, but you have heard them before. Bless you. Okay. Does anybody remember what complementary angles are? What do you think? What?
Right angle.
What about right angles? Like they're each right angles?
I know. They add up to a right angle.
They add up to a right angle. Okay, good. So they add up to a right angle. So let's say that using some math terms, right? We're going to say 2 angles that have a sum of 90 degrees. 2 angles that have a sum of 90 degrees. Sum is our math word for they add up to, right? Okay. When we have complementary angles, they don't have to be adjacent. Okay, they don't have to be adjacent. They can be, but they don't have to be. right? So what do we think supplementary angles might be?
Two angles that add up to equal 180.
Yep. Okay, two angles that have a sum of 180 degrees. And same thing with these, they don't have to be adjacent. Now we're going to do some examples for both of them. Right, the first one, we're going to do an example if they are adjacent. And I'm just going to use the lines that are on my paper to help me make straight lines. I don't have any tissues in here. Okay. Alright, so at the bottom I wrote the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 is 90 degrees. I didn't write any degrees on my picture. What did we learn on Tuesday that tells us it was 90 degrees? The right angle box. Okay, so because that box is there in the corner, that told us that there was a 90-degree angle there. Okay, so even without the angle measurements written down, I can still tell that those are complementary angles. Okay, so example 2 is going to be if they're non-adjacent. Okay, so non-adjacent because they don't share a vertex, they don't share a side, right? What would the measure of angle B have to be in order to make these angles complementary? 60, right? Okay, good, 60. So we're going to put 60 there. Right, so make sure, again, that you're using the correct notation. When we're talking about measures of angles, we're putting M's in the front of the angle symbol. Okay, that's important. Right, we talked about that on Tuesday, too. We want to make sure all of our notation is correct. Right, example 1 and example 2 for our supplementary. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to do adjacent. Okay, this time I drew supplementary angles that were adjacent. I didn't put any measurements on here. But how do I know from what I learned on Tuesday that those are supplementary? And what did we learn about a straight line? It's 180 degrees. So on Tuesday, we talked about straight angles. Straight angles are 180 degrees. So I didn't have to mark measurements on this diagram, right? All right, we're going to talk about a special vocabulary word that describes these angles. Okay, that phrase is linear pair. Okay, so special vocabulary word for adjacent supplementary angles. Okay, when we look at the word linear pair, we see the word line in the word, right? And what does pair mean? Two. So we got two angles that make a straight line. Okay, two angles that make a line. I should add the word adjacent. I left that off. Two adjacent angles, sorry, that make a line. All right, underneath that or somewhere around there, we're going to draw a picture because a lot of times in geometry, you're not going to be dealing with a super basic diagram. You're going to have more complicated stuff. So this is an intersection here where I see multiple angles, right? So I have two lines intersecting and there's multiple angles on here. Yep, you see 6, 7, I hear you. Okay, what is one linear pair from our diagram? Who can give me one linear pair? 5 and 6. Okay, so angles 5 and angle 6. Because if I covered up this side, I could see that 5 and 6 make a straight line together. Okay, what's another linear pair in this diagram? Okay, I heard 4 and 7. Okay, 4 and 7 because I could cover up the 5 and the 6 and that makes a straight line. What's another one? Yes?
4 and 5.
4 and 5, that works. And yes, 6 and 7 works. Okay, so in this one diagram, there's 4 linear pairs. What questions do we have? Anything about the notation or vocabulary so far? Okay, we have one more example to write and then we're going to go to our books. All right, so I want you, for example number 2, I want you to draw supplementary angles that are not adjacent. Okay, I want you to come up with an example, supplementary angles that are not adjacent. All right, draw something that works. Look at our examples that we did for complementary and come up with an example for non-adjacent supplementary. Write an equation that would go with it, just like we did for complementary. Okay, somebody raise your hand and give me one example that you came up with. What did you come up with?
93 and 87.
93 and 87. Okay, so you drew something that was slightly bigger than a right angle. You called it 93, and then 87. Does that work? Do we all agree on that? Okay, that does work. Okay, and what's a different example? What'd somebody else come up with? What'd you come up with?
45 and 135.
45 and 135. Okay, I want you guys to think about this. We talked about classifying the angles into types of angles. Okay, what types of angles did you come up with for your pair? One acute and one obtuse. Is there a different possibility that I could have come up with? Two right angles. Okay, so one acute, one obtuse, or two right angles would work. Right? Right, whatever you guys labeled your picture, if you labeled them like C or D or whatever you labeled them, make sure you write a statement at the bottom for those angle measurements. Okay? All right, we're going to go to our books next. Let's see, we are sixth period. All right, in our books, we are going to look in the gray box on page 79. Gray box on page 79.